Just a quick service announcement before we start. During the next week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different for Christmas. So instead of our two normal long-term FM19 stories, we're going to be doing a special 4 or 5 part challenge on the channel. So after today, the next episode of this story will be the same day next week. But I hope you'll check out what we've got in store in between. Hello and welcome to another episode of this FM19 story, The Head Coach with me, Daniel. It's Season 4, Episode 5, and you've seen from the episode title and the fact we're not back on match day, as well as the fact we're only 6 days after the last episode, that we're on the move today. We've said in the last few days that we are looking to move from Slough ever since the end of last season, to be honest, but we'd only moved to a professional club and we've been given that opportunity and it's a little closer to home than we might have expected as well. But first, we're at our third club in Slough Town and we have to give them a fitting send-off because they've been absolutely brilliant to us. I know we've had a frustrating summer in the transfer window, but we're still up in third place. We've had some absolute superstars on the pitch here. The board have been really realistic and really strong with us, despite coming into this job with 2 failures noted on our CV. So let's go and have a look at the squad and say goodbye to them one last time. We leave them in pretty strong hands, to be honest. Just a couple of days before I left the club, they managed to sign Jordan Sanger, who we mentioned before. He's a 4-star central midfielder and solves the biggest hole in their team. So you see there where we've got a 1.5-star rated central midfielder, put Sanger in there and we suddenly look like a brilliant side. So I am absolutely delighted that he's come in and I'm tipping them for promotion if they get the right man. With the fact that he's just signed, it's almost a shame we didn't get to stay and see out the job this year, because I honestly believe we could have won the title. We've got so many standout players now, and I just want to say goodbye and a thank you to them and the club. We've got to mention Seika Jatta. He's chasing the all-time scoring record for the club of 84. He'll definitely get there this year if the new manager keeps the formation we're playing and keeps Jarvis and Jatta up front. The other man we do have to mention is Aaron Jarvis. What a fantastic forward he's been. We've had him at 2 clubs already, and I think a third might be a bit of a stretch, unfortunately. But we'll see what our new director of football does. He may like him because he's played at clubs that are local to our new team. The only other one I really want to mention is Max McCarker. In central midfield, he's not got the best star rating, but he's been an absolute superstar for me. With all the changes in that deep line playmaker role, people coming and going, performing well and underperforming, he has always stayed consistent and brilliant, and he's scored so many goals from knockdowns of corners, and I just hope that they don't lose him on a free now they've given him a non-contract. And finally, I think it's Jubril Okadina that's got to be mentioned, just because he's been one of the few stalwarts in the team since we've been here. 15 appearances this season and nearly a 7 rating for a centre-half. He's not the best overall, but physically he's strong, and I've no doubt he can help lead them to glory. But a good side we're leaving in really good hands. Our last game was that one against Coventry in the FA Cup in the last episode, so we've left them on a big FA Cup tie following a brilliant run in the league. I couldn't be happier, but it's time to move on to the future. Let's look at our new club. Guesses anyone? We've mentioned them before. It's Stevenage Borough, just a bus ride from my house, and it couldn't be a more perfect situation for us realistically, other than if we'd got the Luton one, but in the Championship we might have to bide our time for that. As for Stevenage, they are in the Football League, they are a professional club, they're currently 3rd bottom of League 2, we haven't looked at their squad at all yet, so we're going to save that for when we join. The only familiar name I can see there is Luke Wilkinson, who used to be a centre-half at Luton. And I recognise a few of the names loosely from our Torquay save, where obviously we've been in League 2 already. If we look at the league table for them at the moment, they are out of the relegation zone, but just by the 2 points, with Wimbledon behind them, who have just appointed a new manager, and Salford Moneybags as well. Crewe are just above them, our FIFA 19 side, and in teams like Coventry not far above. So there are some big sides to compete with, but we'd like to hope we can keep them up. It's a risky move. We're relying on a director of football bringing in players to help us. Don't forget, we've no say in transfers, contracts or staff. So every time we move to a new club, we're completely reliant on the staff already there. It may also mean a change of formation. I can see they're playing a 4-3-3 at the moment, but we'll see what we think of the players when we join. The only good thing we've got at a professional club in the Football League is that squad won't be touched till the 1st of January, so we've got 6 or 7 weeks to work them out. And the fact they've got 3 players on international duty must be a good sign, especially as one of them's English. But let's accept this job offer. We're on £600 a week at the minute, so we want to try and work it up a little. We're going to work the 2 clauses to 25%. Just in case we do go down, we don't want our wage to be affected too badly, although I'm sure we'll get sacked. We're going to be ambitious. We're going to go for £900 a week. You can see we'd agreed a board request for a senior affiliate to try and help our director of football out when we move. We suggest them. They've gone straight to 825, so I'm going to push for it again. I reckon I'll be able to get it. Let's see what they say. They've agreed to it. A £300 a week pay rise, moving closer to home, jumping 2 divisions, and all the way up to the Football League. It's our first professional club, and we'll be back in a second to introduce Stevenage. Here we go then, we're at Stevenage Borough, our first professional club, we're in the Football League. I've got a big smile on my face, you can't see it, but I am absolutely delighted. After the first 2 years of this save, we thought this was going to be an absolute disaster and we wouldn't be able to get a club after 5 or 6 years. So to have finally turned things around and been in the Football League within 4 years is an absolute miracle for me. The board are searching for the senior affiliate as promised. We did that with Slough Town and then they said they couldn't find anyone, so I'm not holding up too many hopes yet. We take the Stevenage hot seat, let's see what they've said about us. Apparently we famously knocked Bromley out of the FA Trophy last year, and we've managed a couple of other clubs before obviously. Stevenage were expected to finish in the top half this season. They're down in 22nd and now just want to avoid a relegation battle. So they must have a pretty decent side here for that. I can see there from the form they haven't won in their last 5 and they've lost 2 on the bounce. So morale's going to be a big issue to start off with. Transfer obligations are always important. 3 in on loan, 3 out on loan, just what you'd expect. Injury update, 1 lad out for a day and a few are retired. So there's nothing we've really got to worry about. The social feed will sort that out in a minute. Well, first game's tomorrow, so apparently we haven't got long to prepare. I might do the old sit in the stands for that one, which is basically just letting your assistant do everything and just watching the game as if you were a spectator. It's Oldham, we've got a home. How are they doing in the league? They're 13th. So arguably this is one of our winnable games, but we might have to let this one go given the circumstances and the facts we've just joined. We mentioned Luke Wilkinson was the only man we knew, and he's been singled out for criticism by Graham Wesley, but we won't judge him based on that, as I'm sure that most of the team have been performing poorly. We've got our welcome to Stevenage interview. Let's go and meet the chairman, see what he says. We're looking forward to achieving big things, of course we are. We want to learn more about the club, we'll meet the journalists, and we don't need to meet our assistant manager. Paul Jewell! Hang on a minute, that stopped me in the middle of a sentence. If my assistant manager is Paul Jewell in League 2, that is absolutely ridiculous. It is. The Paul Jewell, 57 years of age, and I tell you what, we've got a good coach there already, and I suppose for a young manager who's never been at this level, having an experienced assistant like him is really good, and I hope that he stays at the club for a long time. Did a brilliant job in the Premier League before with the likes of Bradford and Wigan, but unfortunately his career declined after he became responsible for that Derby mess in the Premier League. But I am absolutely delighted to have him on board, and we're talking about a step up already in terms of coaching. We haven't got a director of football yet, so that's something we'll get our chairman on to now. But we do have a head of youth development, Robbie O'Keefe, and let's be honest, he's not very good. So hopefully when our director of football comes in, he notices that and gets him out of the job. Obviously we can't make any changes, we're just going to set our chairman and then when he joins our director of football to make all the decisions in regards to staff, and he will do what he wants to do. The only staff member earning more than me at the club is the chief scout, and I'd like to hope that means he's very good. Let's have a look at him, he is very good. A fairly determined personality as well, and I tell you what, we should be bringing in some really good players in January. I'm very much looking forward to this, even more than I was before now, and I hope that things go as well as I'm expecting them to. But let's get back to our intro messages, a background to Stevenage after that. They've got very good training facilities actually, and decent junior coaching. It's just the youth recruitment that's not really caught up with the rest, and the youth facilities are pretty bog standard for this level. But a decent side, they've won the National League a couple of times, and we want to take them up to League 1. We'll meet the media off camera. Jewell presents his Stevenage report. He's got good judgment of player ability, so we want to look at what he's going to say, as it will probably form a lot of our decisions, certainly for the first game. The one thing I have noticed, a transfer budget of 0 and spending £3,500 over the wage budget. That might dampen our plans to get people in January, so hopefully the players that are here are good. They've got a low attendance, but they're quite a small club at this level. And obviously they're dwarfed by the likes of Luton and Watford very locally, and then even towards North London a lot of Arsenal and Tottenham fans. So they're always going to have quite a low attendance. But hopefully we can get all the people who have supported the club in the gate, because we can produce some good football for them. Apparently we've got a very good right back in Luther Wilding, but he's also the only player who can play there according to our biggest weakness. We have got a quick side, which is something I can work with, and I feel like we're going to be a quick wide counter-attacking side, just like we were at Slough, to be honest. Let's see our introductory advice. We'll sort all that out in a minute. It's mostly adding set piece takers. And a welcome from our chief scout. We haven't got any money, so it doesn't matter what he does. And of course, in this save, our director of football will do all that once he's joined the club. Last but not least, let's go and meet the squad. They're the most important bit. If we get them in position order so we can see exactly who we've got. And I tell you what, there doesn't seem to be much depth in defence, does there? He was certainly right about that. So our first choice goalkeeper is also transfer listed. I'm not quite sure of the reasons for that. He's marked as a backup. He's 2.5 star ability with 4 star potential. Poor handling, but everything else bar positioning is okay. A natural sweeper keeper, and he'll do till January, but I'd like to hope our director of football would replace him. One thing I should just check with people like that transfer listed is there's not anyone in the under 18s who's brilliant. There's a 23-year-old in there who's okay and a 24-year-old. So we might have some backup options if we need them, but we'll come and look at those in a moment. At right back, they said Luther Wilding was the first choice man. 3.5 star ability, 4.5 potential. What a player he is. A natural at right back and a natural in central midfield. But he's certainly a better right back out of the two. He's on international duty, so we're not going to have him tomorrow. But moving forward, he's going to be a star player for us. We saw a 2-star right back in the under 18s, and we've also got a 1.5 star one there, so we haven't got any backups. The left back's definitely going to be Mitch Burford, but again he's on international duty with England under 19s remarkably. Very quick and decent attributes in the key area. He isn't great overall, and his personality's not ideal, but to be honest, we'll be happy to have him for the rest of the season, and we'll make sure he gets the football he deserves. At centre-half, again our hands are tied. We've only really got 2 first-choice options. Oliver Denham, a lone player from Preston. He's fairly decent, terrible composure, but everything else is alright. 3-star ability, 5-star potential, and I'm sure he'll do the job until January. And then Luke Wilkinson, 31 years of age now, 2.5 star ability and potential. I'll be surprised if he's not the captain. He's got a professional personality, 15 leadership, 14 determination. He's brave, he's a good player, and his attributes haven't really changed since he was at Luton. So he'll definitely be a starter for us, and we'll get him off the transfer list immediately. The only thing that does surprise me is it says he doesn't dive into tackles, something he used to do quite famously at Luton. But let's move on to midfield. We've got a few options here. We're starting to get some better star ratings as we move along, so let's just look at them as we find them. 2.5 star ability, we've got Mark McKee. He's just a fairly solid player across the board. Probably sort of a top National League, lower League 2, which is exactly where we are at the minute. A natural in a box-to-box, which is a role you've seen I like to play with. We've then got Arthur. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that surname. 2.5 star ability again, just 20 years of age. Not much more potential, but a decent backup if needed. And then we've got Joel Ward, another 2.5 star player. A central midfielder who's just 18. Come from Brighton, being released in the summer. And he looks a bit more like my type of player. A natural deep lying playmaker. A good passer of the ball, and physically he's brilliant. And look at his personality. He's a model citizen. It's almost impossible to find one of them. To have it at 18 is ridiculous. He is going to be an absolute superstar and a long-term mentor at this club. I will make sure he succeeds. Moving on, we've got James Ferry, who's 3.5 star ability, central midfielder, box to box again, and I tell you what, those two we've just looked at might be our first choice midfield. He is brilliant. He's got great stamina and fitness, a good passer again, and just a decent all-rounder. So it could well be Ferry and Ward as our central midfield. We've got a couple of duds there just afterwards, and then Jordan Flores, a player I've heard of, a natural number 10. He can play in central midfield as well. What's his preferred role? A playmaker. And he can play up front too. He's 3.5 star ability, 4 star potential. His attributes don't look that great, but he's a left footer and is clearly rated well by Paul Jewell. We've then got Georgiou, the left winger, not going for the first name again. A left winger or number 10. More natural on the left wing though. He's fairly decent, 3 star ability, 4.5 star potential. 2.5 grand a week on the wage bill, and I feel like he could be where we get most of our money back in January. He doesn't work hard, he's not my type of player, he can't play on the left of a 4, and I'm sure we'll get some use out of him, but he's not my ideal type of player. We've then got Theo Archibald. He's a 4-star player with 4.5 star potential, a right winger by nature. He's a lot better to be fair, and we might have to play with wingers as a result of him being here. He's a natural left footer, so could play on either side. And maybe we could play something that's not symmetrical. It's something I don't like to do, but with the players we've got here, it's looking like that might have to be the case. But a very good player, and we'll find a way to make him work for now. Although again, he's a really high earner at the club. Then there's Ben Kennedy, an attacking midfielder again. He's on 3,000 a week. 3.5 star ability, 4.5 star potential. He's a quite brilliant player, one of the best we've seen at the club so far. And potentially we could play him on the right with Archibald on the left, just to get by until January. But there's some really big earners here, and then the likes of Luke Wilkinson is on £300 a week. It doesn't make sense the structure they've got here, and no wonder the team's a little bit divided. The only other two we've got are strikers, so Junior Moraes, he's 2.5 star, 3,000 a week. Wow, he's not that good. He's a decent target man, very good physically and mentally, not the best technically. We could get some use out of him as a pressing forward, but he will be going in January if he's on 3,200 a week. He's already on the transfer list, so I'm sure the new director of football will see that through. And lastly, the other one of note is Morgan Whittaker. 3.5 star ability, 5 star potential, a natural on the left wing actually, can also play on the right and up front. So he looks a little bit better than Georgiou, and it gives us another option out wide, although I don't think he's quite as good as his rating suggests. But one thing we have got is plenty of talent to work with. It's just about finding a formation they fit in. They seem to have gone for just good attacking players rather than those that fit into any sort of shape. And you can see in terms of talent, we're very top heavy. We've got loads of strikers and attacking midfielders who are good playmakers and earning loads of money. And then they're spending £200-300 a week on their defence. And they're just absolutely awful generally. So plenty of work to be done by a director of football. We have got a few players in the under-18s who are sort of 2 star or 1.5 star who may fill in as decent backups over the next couple of months, but there's certainly a lot of work to be done. If we go to our schedule, we're not going to play the first game on camera because I'm not going to manage it. We're going to let Paul Jewell do all the work for that one and see how he gets on. We'll come back in a few games' time to show you how we're getting on, because realistically all the action's going to be in January, where our director of football starts to wheel and deal and get players in and out of the club. So we might come back for the last one of December against Crewe, or possibly the 1st of January against Lincoln. Either one of those games, and then we've got some massive ones coming up after that, depending on where we are in the league at that point. But that will be all for this episode. If you did enjoy this video and you like the move we've made, please put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of our new club. Do you think we'll keep them up? And where do you think we'll finish this season? And you've seen the key players' profiles now. Who do you think's going to be the superstar for the rest of this season? Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager content from my 2 long-term stories. This one, The Head Coach, where we've just joined our 4th club in 4 years. And our other series, the One Club Challenge with Torquay United, where we take the club from the lowest playable league all the way to domestic and European glory. There's also weekly content from our FIFA 19 lower league career with Crewe Alexandra. But a massive thanks for watching and following the series as always. Please chuck a thumbs up for our first professional move, and we'll see you next time.